Hello. Thank you for tuning in to watch this episode of Season Talk. Now, I know your girl has been gone for a minute, but I had to step away to take care of myself. For those of you who do not know, I had to have surgery, but I am doing well and feeling much better. And so, today's topic will be on the power of words. But before I begin, remember to like, subscribe, comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts about the episode. And so, the power of words. I'm going to start off with reading something. It's interesting how something that takes only seconds to say can stay with somebody for years. Words can encourage us, correct us, shape us, and sometimes wound us. James chapter 3 reminds us that the tongue may be small, but its influence is powerful. So today, I want us to look not only at what we are saying to other people, but what we are saying to ourselves, and whether our words are directing our lives towards healing or destruction. Now, let me just give you a little bit of background of the foundation of scripture where this topic will be built on today. James chapter 3, verses 3 to 6, it talks about how the bit, the rooter, and fire is something so small but can have enormous influence. When we think about the bit is something that is put into the horse's mouth to control the whole body. The rooter controls the boat, and fire, one little spark, you can just have a big, big flames, a big fire. And so these things are small, but they can have a great impact. Same scenario applies to what we are speaking out of our mouths. You might not think the most simple thing that you may say matters, but what you are saying matters. I can recall back when I was preparing for my RN and I was taking my prereqs and I was taking statistics. And me and Mav, we were not the best companions. And I would always tell myself, this math is so hard. I just don't understand math. I these formulas are too much. They too complicated. It was not until the third try that I decided to speak differently as it relates to math. And with the third try, I finally passed with a C. Listen, I took that C and got up out of there, okay? But what I'm trying to say is that I may could have passed on the first or second try had my language changed, had what I was speaking over myself changed. Every action starts with a thought. And most of the time what we speaking we do. That's the same that is what your harvest is. You ever said something so much, you find yourself doing it. Be mindful and pay attention to the words that you speak from your mouth. And so, what is controlling you? Let's reflect back to the bit. The bit is placed into the horse's mouth to control the whole body, right? What is controlling you? A small bit guide a large horse. Our words can also influence the direction of our thoughts, emotions, and choices. Let me ask you a question. If my words are helping direct my life, where has my mouth been taking me? Listen, when you speak, slow down. Before you respond, slow down. I am giving you my advice that I tell myself. As those of you who have been following me for a little while, y'all know that I've been healing and on a healing journey. And I really have been trying to work really hard, especially cleaning up the inside. Because what's on the inside is going to come out on the outside. And so, are you speaking from anger versus speaking from wisdom? Are you repeatedly telling yourself, I can't, I'll never, or nothing works for me? Are you repeating negative things other people have said about you? Are you speaking before you have processed your emotions? I'm gonna stop right there because I can be a emotional Andy, and maybe you are too. One small example I'm going to give for that is one of my pet peeves. Excuse me. One of my pet peeves: make the bed up when you get up. Now, my husband do not make the bed every morning, and it used to drive me crazy. And sometimes, once in a while, it can get on my nerves a little bit. But I would find myself getting so upset and then getting all emotional because my thing is this: if I keep asking you something over and over and you don't do it or you don't cooperate, it makes me feel like I'm being ignored, or you just don't care what I'm saying. I'm just having a transparent moment. And as we know, men and women, we all think differently. And so I used to get so upset. And then it would turn into arguments. Listen, an argument over the bed not being made. And I would get so emotional about it. It leads to that. Then you're saying other stuff, and then you're bringing up other stuff, all from that one little small argument. You know. Now I pick my battles. Now I learned to calm down, think before I speak, and I can't control other people. We cannot control other people because I know that my husband will not make the bed up every day. Sometimes he do, sometimes he don't. But because I now know that, I pick and choose when I am going to respond to the action. And I'm very careful about what I'm saying to him. And when I read speaking from anger versus speaking from wisdom, instead of me, I used to just blow up, yell, voice be on 10. But now it's calmer, hey, I know that I asked you to make this bed up. Don't worry about it. I'll make it. I'll just do it myself, things like that. But not, saying things that can escalate to a, big argument. That's another thing. When you are in relationships, this is another thing I have to kind of jump on real quick. You should not be talking down to each other, cursing at each other, saying things to hurt each other, to degrade each other. That is not love. That is not healthy, and that is not good communication. Been there, did that in previous relationships. So just a little tidbit of advice. What you say, those words have power. If you're saying that I don't want to be with him, or divorce, or whatever it is, you're throwing those things out there, you can cause things to come to pass in your life. So now let's move on. Sometimes we think our emotions control our words, but eventually our words start feeding our emotions. That is such a true statement. Now let's talk about the rooter. The rooter. We're going to relate this to this question. What direction are your words taking your relationships? Could something as small as the way I communicate be changing the direction of an entire relationship? Some examples I have: marriage and intimate relationships. That's kind of what I just mentioned. How you're speaking to each other. Are you always, accusing the person of something, and they may not be doing it because of your own security and your own perceptions? And that's another thing. A lot of times we can project our perceptions onto others. I have, you know, had had that done to me recently. I'm in a process. I'm gonna give an example. I'm in a process of an event called Confidence is Me, and I had someone say to me, um, "Well, you carrying it like you big time or something of their nature. And for a little while, that comment kind of bothered me because it was making me question myself. Like, am I coming off, like I'm all that? Or, I just didn't know how to take the comment. But I also had to understand that for me, I like things a certain way. I like doing things a certain way. Just that's just me. I like what I like. You know, when I tell you that God places people in your life for a reason, um, I asked someone, who's very dear to me, their definition of confidence. Um, and the reason why I asked her the definition of confidence is because it's something that I'm working on for the workshop. Confidence is me that I'm planning on having in October the 10th. I'll tell you about it later. But what she said was that stuck with me is that when you're confident in who you are, you know, she said that you can go wherever and show up, you know, as you, you know, it's just in who you are, what you like. And that, and I'm just paraphrasing because I can't remember in depth, but it really, it really helped me. She said that like when you go out or you be social or you be around people, you don't have to pretend. You can just be true to who you are. Everything that you're not. Like she said, the good, the bad, and the ugly. She don't know, but I really appreciated that. I really appreciated that comment because I was wrestling with that thought, and that's another thing when it comes to what we are saying to ourselves and when we're thinking about the thoughts and when we're speaking to ourselves, we do not have to take on the perceptions of others that they try to put onto us when you know why your why and why you're doing it. Like I always say, know your why. My why is that I like nice stuff. I like things a certain way. I'm choosy about certain things. I want to deliver a certain way. That's just who I am. You got to be comfortable in who you are. And being comfortable in who you are is what you're saying, it's part of what are you saying to yourself. If you're always feeding yourself negative thoughts, it's going to show up. It's going to show up in you. And so I just hope that what I'm saying is resonating with you that's watching. So some other examples to reflect back to the question. I'm gonna repeat the question again. Could something as small as the way I communicate be changing the direction of an entire relationship? This relates to friendships and family, church relationships, co-workers and professional relationships. And co-workers and professional relationships, this is a big one too because communication is very big when you have to separate um the personal from work. And one of the things that I have to do, because being a nurse and working in the medical field and in the area of patient care, we all get frustrated at work, and sometimes, you know, we can tend to take it out on each other. It's just that the stress of work. And one thing that I'm very big on is my delivery and what I am saying to, the people that I care about, that I have the relationships outside of work because I don't want those relationships to be, messed up because of a misunderstanding or out of frustration or whatever from work. All right, so let's move on. Now, I'm going to present a comparison to you that can be said in two different ways, but can be the same issue. Listen up. You never listen to me with I don't feel heard when this happens. Same issue, different words, different direction. Think about that. That's just like when I was using an example for me and my husband earlier about making up the bed. I could say, you never listen to me. And it couldn't be that he's just not listening to me. Some days he could wake up late, he's in a rush, and he just didn't make the bed up. Another way could be, I don't feel heard when this happens. I have said that to him, like, I don't feel like you're listening to me when you're not, when you don't make the bed up. And that led to, healthy communication. And so sometimes when I now, like I mentioned earlier, when I see that the bed is not me, I'm not such in a frenzy about it because of my little OCD ways. Okay? Moving on. Now let's talk about the fire. So we talked about the rooter. We started off with the bit. We talked about the rooter. And now we're gonna talk about the fire. What have my words burned up? What have your words burned up? Have I ever started a fire with my mouth and I couldn't easily put it out? Woo child. Yes indeed. I have said things out of my mouth that you can't take back. Um Sometimes you ruin relationships because you're saying things out your mouth that you can't take back. Gossip or repeating information that was not yours to share. Now listen, we all gossip. We all fall short in that area. I'm working hard to be better with not gossiping. And you know what? I wanna touch on real quick when we think about gossiping and words and when we're speaking to each other. Um Cursing. Or you just saying curse words. Listen, it's called curse words. The word curse, look it up. What does curse mean? And so when you're saying curse words, you're cursing yourself. You're cursing a situation. You're cursing a person or, whatever it is that you're speaking on. Like I said earlier, the smallest word, the one word or curse word that we may say every single day, just because that's just how we are used to talking, you don't even know that could be why you may have some struggles or issues in your life because of the words that you choose. They're called curse words for a reason. So just be mindful about, you know, what you're saying out of your mouth. Um, I used to curse, and once in a while, one curse word will slip up out of my mouth. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I got it all together because I don't. But I do try my best not to curse. And if I'm still cursing, you know what that means? And if you're still cursing, you know what that means? It's that you still got a little bit of that down on the inside of you. Now, I'm not judging anybody because some people feel that there's nothing wrong with cursing. You do you. You heal how you want to heal. But according to what the word of God saying that um cursing should not be coming out of your mouth. We should not be using those words. So think about it when you are speaking again. I repeat it. Now, speaking while angry, try to always learn to, calm down before you speak to someone. There's power with your words. Saying something intentionally hurtful. Oh man, when I can think back to childhood, and I always go back there, because I'm breaking through things now that were said to me when I was young. Some things I am better, and some things, still got to work out. But think about if you have anything in your life where, I mean, if you can remember a time in your life where someone spoke, you know, mean to you, said something to be intentional about hurting you. How did that make you feel? That's one of the things that helps me now that I am being more aware of what I'm saying and what I'm doing is that I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to intentionally put something out there to cause people to, struggle in their mental health, to not accomplish goals and plans that they may have for their life. Because believe it or not, just like I told you earlier, that one comment that that person said to me, it kind of bothered me. And for a minute, I thought it was about to question myself. Am I doing too much? Am I posting too much? But no, this is what I have to do for me. This is who I am. This is how I'm going to show up and take it or leave it. These days, that's what it's take it or leave it. I am who I am. You are who you are. God created us this way. And so we have that right to be who we are and we don't have to be what other people want us to be. As long as I always say your motives are pure, again, you're not trying to hurt anyone. There's nothing wrong with showing up as yourself. Showing up as yourself when you're not used to showing up as you, it takes work. It takes breaking off our old habits to show up as you. One of the things one of the things where one example that I can give. I'm sorry, I'm resting, trying to pull my thoughts together, but one area is that whole projection thing. I no longer let people do that to me anymore, and I have now developed a way to say, hey, that is not true. You know, I speak up, and then sometimes though, silence is golden. Because again, you don't always have to respond to everything. This is where studying God's word and learning you and learning what needs a response and what doesn't. That's all about growing and healing and changing from the inside out and breaking off old habits. Another thing I need to lose, this whole weight thing. I was I was on a meeting where the host was talking about how she used to work out with her neighbor, and her neighbor moved and she no longer works out. And she was saying how she talked herself out of working out. And the same thing was kind of happening to me like last week. Monday and Tuesday of last week, I would get off and I'm gonna say, hey, I'm gonna work out, make sure I'm gonna work out. So Monday I came home and I powerhouse it, like I worked out. And then I could recall Tuesday coming home. I was like, yeah, when I get off, I'm gonna work out. And then by the time I'm going home, as you get closer to home, you tired. That bed start looking good. The shower starts. The thought of the shower is just feeling amazing. Like showering, just going to bed or chilling out. I was about to talk myself out of it. What you say to yourself matters, and it's also mind over matter because when you are used to habits, you have to break them. It takes a habit to break a habit, you know? And so I had to push through those thoughts like, girl, no, I'm working out. I'm going to do this. You have to challenge yourself to push past the thoughts that try to talk you out what you need to do for yourself. Making assumptions and speaking them as facts, that's another big one. And right now, again, we're in the area of the fire. What have my words burned? Again, making assumptions and speaking them as facts. That's another thing. I can make up a whole scenario in my head. I used to make assumptions, just assume. You got to get out of your head. You got to get out of your head. And even now, sometimes when, I may feel like a person energy is off towards me or they moving with, and I start making up things in my head, I have to talk myself down like, girl, that is not it. How about you have a conversation or see or check on a person and see, because a lot of times people can be fighting their own battles and it don't have anything to do with us, and we can make assumptions. And this is a good one. Negative social media comments or conversations. This is another thing. The whole subliminal posts. How many times have you reposted something? It was a story that I heard where how those people talk about how they go to heaven, they have these encounters with God, but this gentleman was saying how he had this encounter with God. Oh, it was a lady, either or I can't remember, but the story was this person had an encounter with God, and God told them it's not the fact that you posted that on social media, it's the fact of how many lives you caused to go left or destroyed or uprooted their lives by what you saw, by what you post on social media. And mental health can be real for a lot of us. And you won't think that one little thing that you post or you repost, you may like it, you may could be feeling a certain kind of way, you're having a bad day, you're having an issue with somebody, and so instead of calling them up and communicating about it, you want to do a repost or you want to put a subliminal. That one repost or that subliminal can uproot not only the person life where you're hoping they'll read it, but other people that's on social media. I'm just trying to be intentional about what I'm putting out there. Cause what you put out comes back. That's your harvest. What you put out, what you sow, what you speak, it comes back. It comes back in some shape form. So just be mindful again, about the words. Words have power. Actions have power. Your thoughts have power. Speaking destructively about yourself, again, we don't want to do that. And some fires start with one sentence. All it takes is one sentence. All it takes is just one word. You can say one word and you can uproot the whole scenario, the whole situation. Now, words spoken to us. What did somebody say to me years ago that I'm still carrying today? What have somebody said something to you that you're still carrying today? It could be labels such as you're not smart enough, you're too much, like I mentioned earlier, not enough, incapable, unwanted, or unlikely to succeed. At what point did their words become your words? Think about that. Man, if I can sit here and tell you some of the things that was said to me in childhood, like we'd be on here forever. What we say matters. If we have children, grandchildren, siblings, what we say matter. For those of you who watching this that don't have kids, listen, childhood matters. That foundation matters. And that's why I'm so thankful that God has strengthened me and blessed me with the ability to talk about these things because I had a rough childhood. I didn't like you. Those of you who have been following me, I didn't grow up in the best, atmosphere. And so it takes work as a grown adult to peel these layers off. So for those of you who don't have children, be mindful. And for those of you who do have children, you can fix it. Hopefully, be mindful of what you're speaking to your children. Words spoken to ourselves. If somebody followed me around speaking to me the way I sometimes speak to myself, would I consider that person a friend? Would you consider you a friend? If you did that, negative self talk does not become truth simply because it's repeated. Instead of pretending everything is perfect, try. This is difficult, but I am capable of walking through it. Excuse my voice. Listen, when wisdom say don't say it, don't say it. Start slowing down, controlling what you say when your emotions are high. Sometimes maturity sounds like speaking. Sometimes maturity sounds like silence. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to respond to everything. Just how powerful the little tongue can be. It can direct like a ruler, control like a bit, or destroy like fire. If every word you've spoken this week was a seed, what kind of harvest are you preparing for yourself and for the people around you? Your words don't have to be loud to leave a lasting echo. And so there you have it. And now, for those of you who do not know, I am putting together a Confidence is Me workshop that will be on October the 10th. I would love to have you in the building. We're coming together. We're talking about confidence. We're talking about where confidence comes from. If you are confident, come on out, share your story, encourage others. But I would definitely love for you to be in the building. And so, click the link below to learn more about Confidence is Me, and hopefully, I will see you there. Now, before I go, I love to leave you with a little information. I will be intentional with my words. I will not allow temporary emotions to create permanent wounds. I will speak truth with wisdom, correct with love, encourage without pretending, and learn when silence is necessary. My tongue may be small, but I recognize the power it carries. And I choose to use that power to build rather than destroy. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, and have a wonderful week. Bye.